in here networking. It wasn't a game. It's not a game for you all, and I appreciate that. You mean what you're talking about. We're recording this so that people that can't be here can see it. So I want to move around. So if I'm like awkwardly standing in one spot, that's why. Because if I start moving, then the camera won't be able to see me. If you are in a position where you kind of can't see, just move your chair. I don't care if you go out into the aisle and just kind of move around. We're family here, so just get comfortable.
It's Friday night, we're in a happy hour.
That's right. It's a happy, being happy, networking. Just do. This is your room. Do what you want to do, whatever you want to do. So, okay. For how many of you is this your first ever fuel event? First ever. How did you guys find out about this? Like a couple of you that like
internet.
Okay.
Emails.
Email. Okay. Did you get an email from me or from a friend? Like you should go to this.
No, I just get that MMRC emails.
Okay. It took you this long to find. Okay, never mind. We'll talk about it later.
We actually had our HR director distribute the information.
Which company?
Marcus Hotels Resort.
Sophie, mark that down. Something special coming your way. Others.
Smoke signals.
Smokes. That was me this morning. I was doing that. I've been working on it. Well, I'm glad to see all of you. I've been practicing. I'm taking a class. Development. I'm glad to see all of you, no matter how you found out about this or how many events that you've been to. This, as Erica said, is a happy hour because this is our 10th and a bonus session for our professional development boot camp. We logged almost 1,500 registrations for this year's boot camp. Next year is going to be year 10. So I don't know what we're going to do, but Sophie, we got to get our rest because it's coming and we're going to try to make it really big and special. The whole point of boot camp really is to expose all of Milwaukee's talent and those who want to be exposed to it through this program to professional development opportunities. So a lot of times if your employer is not sending you through workshops for their purposes, like things they want you to get better on, we get so mired down in like day-to-day work that we don't always take the time to invest in ourselves and think about the things that we want to think about. Like, what do we want to get better at? What do we want to grow at? You know, so this is an opportunity for our members and professionals in Milwaukee to like understand the universe of development that is available to us. The second piece is really to expose all of us to the brilliant professionals, experts, coaches, trainers that are right here in our community that many times we don't know about, we don't have access to them. We're waiting for our employer or our managers to, hook us up. But this is a way for you to reach out to people on your own now. How many of you have reached out to one of the speakers that you either saw on a virtual or saw at an in-person event? And they respond to you, right? They get back to you. And that's something that a lot of us know, but it's a practice of like, go after what you want. Make the connections that you want to make because they're going to respond to you and they want to talk to you just as much as you want to talk to them. So that's why we're doing this. And Sophie is actually the reason why we're doing this session in particular on networking. Months ago when we were planning this, she said, I just want to do something fun. Let's do something fun, a nice, cool, fun Friday. And I was kind of sitting there like, girl, that's going to be intense. We ain't doing nothing fun. I want to go home. Okay, she's right. And she was. So, Sophie, I'm going to just have you, I'm not going to put you on the spot. Just tell them who you are, your position, your title, because I keep referencing her because I've known her since she was like 10. But you guys don't know her, so.
Yeah, so I'm MMAC's events and program specialist. So I've been working really closely with Corey Joe to get fuel stuff going again for 2023. So we're really excited about the upcoming year of programming. We've got a lot going on, and so keep an eye out for all the emails that are coming. I thought tonight's workshop was really important because oftentimes people come to our networking events and they just sit in their little bubbles and they don't go out and connect with everybody else who's there. They come with someone and they only talk to that someone and don't end up making any of the connections, which is the reason why we go. And so I think that this is going to be a really impactful session for us to learn some tips and tricks to get outside of our bubbles and keep growing our networks and hopefully gain some valuable insights from other people.
100%. Thank you. So you'll be seeing her face and get emails from her. Now you know who Sophia is and why we're here tonight. I can't move forward without thanking our sponsors. Our major sponsor this year is a company that's new to the Bootcamp family. Associated Bank came on as a major sponsor and said, we support what you're doing, we care about what you're doing, and we want all of your members to know that we invest in talent. Our supporting sponsors are American Family Insurance and Radio Milwaukee. American Family Insurance. They keep giving us money because I do that every year. That's what it is. You gotta sing it. You gotta sing it. But they, Radio Milwaukee, 4 years in now, and American Family, this is their third year supporting us. So none of this would be possible without sponsors like them. So I got to give them a shout out. Go to their websites, go to their banks, get some insurance, listen to the radio, support, all that good stuff. All right, you ready? Let's get into it. Okay. So what you see in front of you are the goats. They are some of the greatest networkers of all time. And it's not just me that thinks it. I put a post on my LinkedIn, which is a very official and authoritative presence on the online. And as you know, when you put a question out there, you don't always get a lot of engagement on everything. But this question got a lot of engagement. I was like, you know what? Who are some of the great networkers? And their names, everybody up here, name was repeatedly posted again and again and again. And I know all of them. This is our first time meeting in person, but I know all of them. I know of all their work. And they're the goats. They're the good ones. So I said, I could do a workshop just on networking, but that would be no fun for us to just sit and like look at PowerPoint slides. Let's actually talk to people who have been recognized as the best to do it. And this is what we have here. On the far end, Erica Conway. She owns all kinds of stuff. She's super creative. You'll know her from C2 and Talamere. Did I say that right? Talamere. I always say Talamere.
Yeah, you make it fancy.
Yeah, I'm French. That's what it is. That's what it is. Tim McMurtry, I've also known you for a long time.
Yeah.
We go way back. And you've had very important positions in our community and in like civic roles. But right now, you head up the National Association of Minority Contractors.
Correct.
We'll hear a little bit more about that. That's a big deal. I'm very proud of you and everything that you've done. I'm so glad that you're here.
Glad to be here.
Maggie and I are like on the same email list, on like 18 different email lists, but this is our first time actually meeting face to face or chatting that we know of. You'll know her from, I need some water so I can say all these. But the Greater Milwaukee Committee, the Commons, and Forward 48. She'll tell us a little bit more about those too. And sitting closest to me is my bestie, Eric Kennedy. You'll see every boot camp or race bridge where it's like, why does she keep having Eric? Because he's my bestie. So he always has to do stuff with me. I've known Eric for a while too, and I'll say this about Eric and the way that he networks, why I wanted him to be here, is I met Eric at a time when it was like a war for talent and a bunch of YP groups like cropping up and all wanting to have the biggest events, the coolest events, the best brand. And it was a very tense time for all of these groups. We were all headed up by really young leaders. And there was a lot of spectatorship about like which YP group is the best and which one deserves the funding. And it was weird and it was hard and it we didn't have good relationships. A lot of it was a thread through all these YP groups. And Eric came into our community and was just coming to everybody's events. And he was just showing up and he was just nice to everyone. And he would, you know what? I want to put you in an email with such and such, and you guys should do an event together. And I'll be sitting there like, dude, if you don't leave me alone, I don't like her. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to. And I would feel that inside, but he was so nice, and I was just like, go along with it. Okay. And he did that for years. And I largely credit you, Eric. And I don't know how much we've talked about this, but for like navigating all of us through that, because all of us were super young. And the community was watching us, and in some ways pitting us against each other. And it was hard. I didn't know how to handle it. But you just kept being nice and kept making us get in the room together, and just kept. And he supported all of us equally. And that's true networking. All of these folks have I could tell stories and examples like that about all of them. But they're all authentic and they're all real. And I think they're going to give us some real insights that'll help us, all of us, including me, be more effective. So as we get started, I'm going to start with you all, the reason why we're here. Tell us, what are some of the things, why are you here today? When you saw this event, what did it trigger in you to say, yeah, I want to go to that event, other than these, I want to meet the goats. I know. But there's probably something in you that says I could be better at this, or I'm a little uncomfortable about this, or I've always struggled with, or I've always wondered about this, or I'm thinking of something new. Is there anybody willing to share what that thing is? I'll take a couple of them because I just want to get a sense of what's on your mind.
Something for me that brought me to this is I'm really excited to learn how to break the chains of my own introvertedness. I've come so far, but I need something, that chemical X that you guys got.
Anybody else?
I wanted to come to this to learn how to have professional relationships just for the sake of having them, and then possibly even find mentors as well, or how to find mentors, because I find that I will usually network for a specific purpose, but it's not just something I regularly do.
It's awesome.
Networking really important for career maintenance, and recognized that a long time ago. And one of my challenges is I'm an introvert too, but I call myself a situational extrovert. So I love interacting with people, networking, met some great people. I'm great with that first meeting, and then I don't know what to do next to keep up the relationship and what a relationship means professionally. So any tips on that would be great.
Ooh, that's good. That's a good one.
I love going to all these events, Milwaukee, Visit Milwaukee, MMAC, and everything. And these events are just wonderful, except, the thing is, I'm quite socially awkward for the most part, and just learning to navigate Milwaukee's networking scene when you're as socially awkward as I am would be something that I would really like to improve upon, learn about.
What makes you think you're socially awkward?
I'm really geeky. Wrong.
I'm the goat of socially awkward.
I'm like, if you were asking that question, you're like biting your hand.
The big with the MMAC at the big, the Pfizer Forum last time I went, there was I don't know how many people were there. Where do I even?
It's just massive. Yeah. That's that feeling. I get that. I do. Anybody? Yeah.
I would kind of echo what this gentleman was saying, just about how you really transition that initial meeting into a joint value add relationship, whether that's immediately or over time, but it has to extend beyond that initial interaction. And how do you go, what are thoughts about how to do that in a way that is fruitful and productive for everyone and enjoyable? Because, it's great to have professional friends over time, but sort of not sure how to do that out of context, if that makes sense.
I want to learn how to authentically network without subconsciously wanting something from somebody.
Thank you. I overtly want things. The minute I look at the name tag, I'm like,
That might be an entrepreneur thing too. I mean, everybody does it to some degree, but I think it depends on what, whether you automatically do it or
Mine
not.
is that initial contact.
Yeah.
Mine is, I can finish, I can manage a relationship, but it's that first contact of the awkwardness between the two people.
How to break that awkward silence and start
Yeah.
building that connection.
Not just like, here's my card.
Mhm. I love it.
I do a lot of these things like you, mostly because I like to meet people. And I work for Associated Bank, so it was kind of said, you should do some of these things. So, but I do these things because I knew that there were a lot of people in this room that I had met before at different events. And one of the things where you said, how can I do this without subconsciously wanting something? I don't go into this wanting something. I just kind of meet all these people, and then eventually down the road, if there's something that I see where two of the people that I met before need to be connected, then I know to connect them. So it's really just about connecting all the dots.
You're a connector, very helpful. So I remember when I was in college, the first time I really felt pressure to start thinking about networking, it was like, I don't know, maybe junior year or saying we knew we were getting ready to graduate and need a job, and the professors were like, you gotta network, you gotta get yourself out there, you gotta get out there and find out who's hiring and make connections. And I remember just feeling so uncomfortable because I'm like, it just seemed transactional. Like, I don't want to network. I just remember having that feeling about it. It changed over time as I started doing it, but my first couple of engagements, social engagements, where I was just a little uncomfortable because I felt like, what do I have to offer that you would want to hire me or know me? I didn't know how to approach it. My mindset about it has changed a lot, and I sort of have a philosophy, I guess, about how I approach it that I've developed over time. If you all on the panel had to say you have a philosophy or an approach to networking, what would it be? I'll start with you, Erica.
philosophy or approach to networking. I'm not actually joking about having I always do have kind of a mental list because I have a two-sided business. So I own a staffing firm, which is C2, and I am always looking for people who are looking for a job. That's my money, right? And then I'm always looking for people who are needing help so I can get those people who are looking for a job. And so I always have this kind of agenda of just feeling out a room well, are you in a position to hire? Are you looking for a job? Do you know somebody everybody knows somebody looking for a job. So and I just really am I enjoy this. I enjoy people, enjoy meeting people, and enjoy talking to people about what they do and what fires them up. And so I always kind of go I want to hear what people are fired up about. And so that's always kind of my thread that I bring to what I'm doing is what are people fired up about? I was so excited about this tonight because I'm going to learn from the young people what networking is all about. I've been in the house for 3 years, and I'm I hope to learn some things.
Right.
Tim, what do you think?
My philosophy is first you have to be interested genuinely in people. You don't necessarily have to be, this super duper extrovert. You can be an introvert, but you are human too. So being able to make the human connection, I think is most important. My first, I guess, sense of value for networking happened when I was a legislative assistant for an alderman here before becoming his chief of staff. And because we were in a district that had a lot of needs, got a lot of calls for service. And in having conversations with some of the other legislative assistants, they didn't have as many calls for service. We would get, 35 to 100 calls a day, ranging from the Department of City Development to the assessor's office, the Department of Public Works. So I was able to interface with all of these different departments and became a conduit to the people and the appreciation that the people would show. Oh my God, thanks for returning my call. Thanks for doing this, thanks for doing that. It's like, oh wow, knowing people makes you valuable. And so that has been kind of my philosophy. There are instances where you do go into an environment, if you are looking for a specific thing, or man, if so-and-so is there, I've got to talk to him because I have this specific issue. But for the most part, I found that if you just come in, meeting as many people, the law of large numbers will happen for you. And you have unusual suspects that somewhere down the line, you will run back into either somebody saying, hey, Tim, do you know anybody that does so-and-so and so-and-so? Oh yeah, I met my man at, the fuel event. And I think that'll be a good connect for you. Let me send you an introduction so you guys can get hooked up. Again, you're providing value. And so I would say, not to take up everybody's time, since you're talking, I would say that look at networking as seed planting that you're going to get a harvest from. And most harvests are multiples of whatever the seed is. When you get a whole big oak tree, you don't plant the oak tree, you plant an acorn. But from that acorn comes a tree. So part of the way that you can get past your fears of networking is have courage. Courage is the ability to move forward even when your knees are shaking. And courage evolves into confidence after you build up the skill set of networking.
Long before Tim.
I think as an introvert for sure. So I get that feeling of where you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in there, like I'm gonna do it. So I get that. So for me, I try to really be in a space where I'm reminding myself to be grounded in what it is that I'm walking into. So there are so many different kinds of networking events. So having that moment of taking pause and clarity, like, okay, these are kind of generally the type of people who will be there. Because then what's really important is just having that self-awareness to understand, like, I know who I am or what I'm about. I know some of my unique value, and I know that I've got just like a couple of good stories that I think like I can comfortably and confidently share, so that as you start to connect with people, like you can ask questions in a way that set it up so you can share the stories you're most comfortable talking. And that just kind of like gets things going. And it just, I think, gives you that focus. And even if you are looking to get something out of it, I think that's okay. I mean, that's how you keep your business running, right? And so that's all right. But I think then that added value of like, you can also connect others and listening. So really having that understanding of like, what do I think is unique about me, understanding that you don't have to have the craziest story in the world, but just that you're interested in hearing what others have to say. That makes you interesting, that you're a good listener, and knowing that you can really build from there and you can walk away with feeling more and more comfortable. And I will say, I know before it was like sometimes you go with like a buddy and you might stick with them, but you can have like a good like networking accountability buddy, like that's like, okay, we're walking in together, but see you in 20 minutes.
Right.
I don't want 20 minutes and circle back, so there's nothing wrong with that.
So first, thank you guys for being here. I think that for you guys to take time out of your busy day, busy week, even on Friday, I mean, that speaks volumes. Stepping outside your comfort zone. Kudos to you guys. So for me, as Corey Joe knows this, I hate networking. I'm a transplant, like probably many of you. But so I had to network and kind of create these relationships. And so for me, over the years, I've been here for the last almost 15 years. So just being intentional, being transparent, being genuine, and really willing to step outside your social comfort zone are things that why I've been very successful. I've been very humbled, very grateful to be a part of different community initiatives and people allowing me to connect them, right? Is that trust, is that transparency, is being authentic, is being intentional. I think for me, as Corey Joe has been a part of, and if you've heard about some of the PD camps, hopefully you have, with Ann Zizzo and Chief Lipsky and Mayor Johnson. But breaking bread. I love to eat. Everyone has to eat at some point, right? But breaking bread is really once you connected people, breaking bread and no ask, no agenda. For me, I probably do a lot of breaking bread dinners that Corey Joe has completely embraced. And I'm so thankful and grateful that so many of these people love coming to these dinners because they can be their true selves. They can be, we're not going to judge you. We remove our lens to embrace you for who you are. I think that when it comes to networking, yes, there's that transactional side of it, but then also these professional relationships have developed into personal relationships for me. They've also done very well for my friends, and Corey Joe has been able to get Chief Lipsky and Ann Zizzo, even though she knew them, she was able to get them right to do this boot camp. So I think it's really being transparent, being intentional, willing to step outside your comfort zone. I think that too many times we are in the most segregated city. Really being able to say, you know what, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to be educated. I know I'm not always right, but I want to learn more about you. I want to be able to remove my lens to really embrace you for who you are. And I think that that's really why, for me, I've been very humbled to be a part of these different conversations and a lot of these meals. Although my budget really, I mean, it's fucked up, but
Yeah, I'm like, but you know, okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because let's talk about one of the concerns that was raised from the participants was, okay, I have this connection, I know this person now, how do I manage these relationships? Like, what do I do? And what ways do you stay connected with people and deepen that relationship? So Eric is talking about breaking bread, which essentially is a series of dinners that he organizes with just different people in your network, right? Yeah. So kind of tell them a little, like, we go to different places, different restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's another way to step outside your social comfort zone and really support Visit Milwaukee destinations throughout the greater Milwaukee. So whether it's Bronzeville or whether it's Mitchell Street or Silver City or downtown Milwaukee, it's really being intentional about these are the people that I want to catch up with, and just not even ask them about work. Most of our conversations, as Corey Joe can kind of attest to, 1% may be having to do with work, right? But it's a time for people to just catch up. And a lot of times we see each other at different events, or we know each other through social media, right? But then and then there's also that misconception or perception of that person saying like, I've never really liked that person. And then you have that conversation saying like, why? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, well, on social media or in the news or in the public, they're this way. But then saying like, have you ever broken bread with them in terms of like, and it doesn't have to be extravagant in terms of meals, but it's like grabbing a coffee with them and being really more intentional and being transparent and genuine, saying like, hey, I just want to get to know you. I've learned a lot about you, or I've seen a lot about you or heard a lot about you. And I just want to maybe buy you coffee. Or now with today's era, you can maybe grab 15 minutes of their time through virtual meetings and say like, I just want to get to know you for that 15 minutes with no agenda, right? And I think that that's really, for me, it's coming into like knowing like a lot of people are like, why are we all together? But I think slowly over the last couple of years, people are like, oh, this is why Eric has a reason why Visit Milwaukee CEO is here, or the county exec's here, or entrepreneur, or someone just moved here, right? It's because I know I'm almost like a matchmaker. It's almost like networking is almost like matchmaking, right? And you kind of match people's interests, passions, and also professional passions and interests. And then they're also the personal, because a lot of my friends have kids. And so it's right, kind of saying like, why not build up the future leaders of this community?
Yeah, you end up being friends. So like, think about people in your network or people that you've met. So it's a combination of people that are like, if you put together a list of 5 or 6 people that maybe 2 of them you're really good friends with, 2 of them you just met, 2 of them you've only worked with, but you've never hung out personally. And think of, it's not just any restaurant, it's a new restaurant. There's some reason. Maybe it's part of your culture, it's part of somebody else's culture. It's a historic, whatever. There's something interesting about the place that you're going to. Put them all in an email together and say, hey, I think you guys should really get to know each other. I'm hosting this dinner. All of us, let's come to dinner. Let's a bunch of us. Maybe send it to 10 people and hope that 5 of them show up. Organize it a little bit in advance so that the people know you're coming. And it just feels nice. And then at the end, we just split it. Everybody put a credit card in and we just split it. I've met so many people like that, and Eric does these consistently, to where the first one I was like, I don't know these people, but I look forward to it now. And I think it's so smart. And if I start biting it, don't be mad.
Before you move on, just, to take a piece of that, that's advanced level, professional, PhD level networking. So networking goals. A microcosm of that, or a smaller version of that, is you can do that with individuals. You don't have to go, 10 deep, stuff like that, because you're still kind of feeling your way a little bit. I don't really like to be around people that much. And so if you already made the initial meeting, you do, though, have to maintain the relationship. You can start off with just a text message. Hey, it was great meeting you at the Fuel event on Friday. I'd love to have coffee with you sometime. Let me know if you have any dates over the next couple of weeks. We can go ahead, and grab a bite to eat or something. And just the person receiving that is like, oh, wow, I've been made valuable again. And 9 times out of 10, they will respond. And so those individuals that you meet at an event, I try to, within 7 days of meeting them, grab the card, do that routine right there. That's the beginning of your networking and maintenance of said relationship. Now, you guys might go and have coffee. You don't have to have it super regimented. Every 3rd Tuesday of a month, you ain't gonna do all that. You can say, okay, I need to reach out to so-and-so. I haven't talked to them in a while. Let me just drop them a line. Hey, thinking about you. I was great. We need to get together real soon. And they will respond saying, yeah, let's get something on the calendar. Now your job now, after they sent you the dates, you got to get back to them and follow through. When you follow through, that's when you begin to have the relationship blossom. Because as Eric said, you're not talking about business per se. I'm just talking to get to know you. And I'm practicing this formula of meet, follow up, go out with again. Meet, follow up, go out with again. And as you continue to do that, your Rolodex begins to grow. And now you go to another event. It's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Now you know people. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't a big thing when you had to do a calculus problem to meet 5 people, then carry a 7, divide by 6, raised to the power of 9. No, it's just, I met you. It was great meeting you. Let's go out and have some coffee. And you do that. Now, if you can intersperse one of the mega things that Eric does with that, now you get a chance to amplify it or accelerate it. But the baby steps are, hey, I met somebody. I got about 3 cards at that event. Let me call each one of them within the next 7 days. Great meeting you at the XYZ event. Would love to grab coffee with you sometime. What is your availability? And the reason why you want to ask what is your availability over the next couple of days, because they get that all the time. Let's go. We gotta grab a beer. They hear that all the time. But what you do when that question of, well, hey, let me know about your availability over the next couple of weeks, you put the onus back on them. Now there's a responsibility that somebody has to get back to ensure that you might have a chance. So go ahead.
I was gonna say also too, I don't think it's so bold to even just go ahead and send them some dates, because then it's still like very specific and it isn't just waiting for them to look throughout their whole account. Like sometimes depending on the person, I'm like, I gotta just like give them the days for it, so,
And so I like how we're reverse engineering this because I would step back even one more. So my entire networking career has really I've been an MMAC member for, I think, going on 20 years. And so MMAC is a go-to always, doesn't matter what it is. Well, it does matter, no offense to Associated Bank, but when it's those bank breakfasts, I'm no, those are not my people. They're not my people. They might be my people, but it's always at 7:00 in the morning and it's banking talk. That's just not my
One
scene.
of those either, Erica.
So if we can have banking on a Friday night, this would be more my jam. But so I'm super involved in the creative industry. So I go to the American Institute of Graphic Arts and the 414 Digital, which is interactive marketing, and the Business Marketing Association, American Marketing. So I think maybe I philosophically is I like to go where my people are, ad workers, and I start there because there's always if I go to this room and I know a couple of you, and that's exciting because I get to know some folks. But when I go to those rooms and I don't know people, that's a kind of a red flag for me. No, I should know everyone in those rooms because those are the people I serve, the employers, the people who are looking for work. Those are my people. So I think if I'm gonna go kind of philosophically, be where your people are and know all your people. So that if you have an agenda, you know how to get that agenda met, you're deepening those relationships. And then, take your MMA, take the room that you walk into and you're I don't know any of these folks and I might never see any of you again. But if I do, then it'll be warm and lovely. But I'm going to take that, I'm going to deconstruct it a little and say about picking the room that you network in.
To build on that too, I think if it's something that's you're nervous about and new at, it makes it easier if you're within a specific industry to have the follow-up because most likely those folks will show up at another similar event, either with that same organization or just something else where that gives you that follow-up question, hey, are you gonna go check out this thing? I'm gonna be there too. And so if you're sort of feeling I don't I like them, but I don't really know what exactly I want to continue.
I'm not ready for a one-on-one coffee.
Yeah, just be I'm going to be there. Let's look for each other, and so
let's grab a drink before.
Yeah, yes.
Let's talk about that. In the first, you meet somebody and you might like them for whatever reason. Maybe they might be a good work friend, or you just like their personality, how they whatever. I'm gonna follow up with this person to have coffee. So I've gone to places, and I'm just going to be transparent, and have given my business card to someone and gotten an email that was hey, just would like to follow up with you. Let me know if you have some time. And there's a little part of me that's what do you want? So because I don't know from their message what they want. So when you're scheduling the follow-up, are you thinking about what you want, even if it's just, I just liked you and I just want to hang out? Do you say that in that first message? And how do you say it?
For me, I'm pretty transparent because my day job is, I'm fortunate to help give out money and in-kind asset donations. So a lot of times for work, people will say, let's grab a coffee or let's grab a drink. And for me, I've been 7 years sober. So I think that for me, happy hours are not something that I'm really going to be turned on by. So I think that for me, I'm pretty transparent and very bold in terms of saying hey, that's great that we met. Tell me a little bit more why your intentionality, right? So it's just really being more transparent and having that courage and confidence to be saying hey, I'm glad we vibed. Just kind of following up that's great that you want to meet with me, or just saying hey, I'm glad we met, would love to grab coffee or whatever, right? And saying here's my would love to hear more about your journey, would love to talk to you a little bit more about your journey, and also potentially a service that I can helpfully provide to you. I think it's just being upfront. And I think that in today's era, I think more people are being more forthcoming and more transparent rather than there's subtle or secretive like agenda.
Like you get there and then they're trying to sell you something. It's
Yeah.
like, that's not what I thought this was.
No, I think that's right on what Eric was saying. You can put in your line, hey, great meeting you at so-and-so and so-and-so. I'd like to have a follow-up coffee with you to hear more about blah, 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 blah. And again, what it does, and take a step back, we're in the day and age of, selfies. You know what I'm saying? So I love selfies too, truth be told. But because a lot of the attention is on a person, you being interested in somebody other than yourself sets you apart. There's a value add. And if you had a conversation with somebody, whether it was 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or you guys talked for 20 minutes because y'all was really vibing at the event, you following up, mentioning something that y'all talked about, that sends a signal to that person. They were really listening. Yeah, I wasn't just, blowing smoke. I was really interested in you and I remember what you said. I want to hear more about that. So that tends to make the person more inclined to at least give you a shot. Right. Now, when y'all go out for the coffee and you turn out to be a hook, it's like, okay, don't be ever again, player, because we ain't going no place else. But you will at least get this first opportunity. And as you're rapping with them, and the authenticity that we talked about earlier is really, really key, because you want to be as authentic and real and genuine in this face-to-face as you appear to be when you guys first met at said event that you went to and you guys made the initial connection. So it's okay to ask, hey, are you available? This is what I want to talk to you about. But I would lead with something that they said when you had that initial conversation, to do two things. Number one, let them know, hey, this is what this is. This is not a bait and switch. This is what I'm going to talk about. And number two, it lets them know that they had value to you when you spent that time with them, because most time people don't give a frog's fat butt about nobody else but themselves. And as you are showing, hey, I'm interested in you, the person, cool. Now, subsequent to that, there could be some, mutually beneficial things you guys can do transactionally. But this first foray, I'm just trying to get to know you, the person. And that'll come through if you're genuine about it.
And whatever you need to do to remember like the conversations, make sure you give yourself a minute to, like it was at the end of the night, you're sitting in your car or wherever, where you're like, right time, like, okay, like this person, they talk, like that's something that I have to do for myself. I've had friends who like have full on like spreadsheets of like,
Maggie told me to talk to Izzy tomorrow. Got it.
So whatever like tool you need to remember, because it can happen, like you can talk to lots of people, or even if it's just two, like it's amazing how much can like slip your mind by the time you sit down. So that way you can be able to have that personal follow-up. We were doing some interviews, and that one of the candidates wrote back to every single one of us, and she called out something very specific that each one of us had asked her about, and all of us were like, okay, this person's legit. And now that wasn't networking like this, but it is still networking, because
it's a practice.
Absolutely, because while I don't know if she's going to move forward, I know that I'm like keeping an eye on her, and I want to figure out where else I can help her to get going, because she was really impressive. And that same type of thing happens when you're just, meeting people in a networking event.
Is that what 40 recipients do now?
Yeah, exactly.
I also think about like different levels of follow-up. Like sometimes it might be an immediate need for you to have a coffee with a person right away, or you like them enough that you just want to be their friend, and I'm like, oh, I want to hang out with this person. But there's also more passive ways to just make sure that a person knows that you remember them and that you connect. It's like I met someone at it's like a luncheon, and we were sitting at a table, and we didn't have a lot of time to talk, but the person made an impression on me, and I made an impression on them, and they sent me a card that I was not expecting. I just was not, they didn't have my business card or anything. They just looked me up on the internet and sent me a card and said something about what we talked about. And the next time I saw the person, I was just like, it's like I was really excited, and I'm an email person, and I'm not, so it's made me think I need to be more intentional about, maybe send a LinkedIn follow up. Yeah, you do all that, but like actually writing a note.
How did
And
it make you feel when you got a card?
I felt, yeah, it was like, oh, Christmas, you know, to just open up this card. And it wasn't, no one was selling me anything. No one wanted anything. It was just, hey, it was so nice talking to you. I hope your kids are, you know, having a great soccer game next week. Like, they really remember it. And it meant so much. And we don't do that enough because the email is cool.
Yeah.
But it was something about that note that just really, you know, it was
I
next
buy the
level.
cards and the
Yeah,
stamps.
that's a missing art.
It
That's
is.
where they stay.
Okay, so let's step back to, what do you do when you're at an event and you don't know anyone? Tim, when you reposted about this event, I read your context, and you talked about being able to walk into a room and flow.
Yeah.
Say some more about that.
Yeah, and this is where you get into your own personal kind of psychology, and not trying to, you know, make a big old deal out of it, but how you feel about yourself, you know, makes a big difference. My personal philosophy is whatever room I'm walking in, I own that room. And that is a function of, you know, practice, as well as, you know, a function of, you know, societal deviance. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm African American. So we've had some, you know, history of racial polarity, you know, here in the city of Milwaukee, in the country, really, you know, and, you know, Black folks aren't always number one on the totem pole for people. So I don't own that. That's the next man's problem. To me, I'm fresh. So you don't like me, you got a mental problem. Anyway. So when you walk into a room, you have to have a level of esteem. Your self-esteem is simply your reputation with yourself. So when you walk into the room, everybody are, you know, people are creatures of habit. So everybody, the president, the football star, the athlete, whoever, when they walk into a room, human nature says in the first 5 seconds, I'm gonna scan the room, see if there's anybody that I know in here. I'm just, no matter where you are, at the coffee meeting, at the fuel event, at the breakfast banquet, whatever, you're gonna first scan, is there anybody here that I know? And by second number 6, when you don't see anybody, now it's, who can I connect with? Now, with that, there are myriad ways to connect with somebody. The best way I've found is complimentary types of things. See somebody, nice shoes. Hey, excuse me, those are some slick shoes you got on. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things. So immediately you disarm the other person, and they are now open to, okay, what's your name? Tim McMurtry. What's your name? Oh, I'm, you know, Dave, or I'm Sarah, or whatever. So that's the one thing. The other thing that you can keep in your back pocket is that 95% of everybody in that room is feeling that same anxiety that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have the guts to go up to somebody first.
That's right.
So you get the advantage of being the icebreaker. One more hack for you. If you're going to an event and there's a sit down type of thing, 8 to 10 tables, and you're there and, you know, you're coming up and you don't see anybody that you know, that you can kind of, you know, jack a seat at their table, you have to meet some new folks. One of the things that you do that can help you own that area and then the room is you come up, say, excuse me, anybody sitting here? Oh, no, you are now. Oh, thank you. So before you sit down immediately, like Tim McMurtry, nice to meet you. I'm supposed to go around the entire table. Hi, Tim McMurtry. So now as you're going around the table, you don't know nobody here. But they're sitting thinking, who is that? Tim McMurtry. So now by the time you sit down, everybody at the table is presuming that you are somebody because you did something that everybody at that table was scared to do. And now that I should have did that, but you didn't. I did. So now when you're addressing people with the conversation at the table because you've met everybody, you can say, Dave, what about so-and-so and so-and-so? Sarah, what about so-and-so and so-and-so? Now, that gives off the vibe that you've known them folks. You didn't, you just met them when you went around the table. So so that's the kind of thing that you do. And as you do that as a practice, you develop a skill set. First, you got to be competent at, okay, what should I be doing? After competence, you develop a skill that comes through practice. After the skill, you become an expert. I do this. This is what I do. After the expert, you become a master. I can do this better than most people. After master, you become world class. I can get paid to do this. But this is what I do.
Yes.
Then.
In that scenario, you're going around and greeting everyone. How do you remember their names? I feel like within the first 2 minutes, I forget it.
That's another personal skill development that you get with practice. And until you get there, you can just remember 1 of the 10. You can remember a tithe of the name. You know what I'm saying? 10%. You meet 6, 7 people, at least one of those people, just try to remember the name. So your homework assignment is to remember at least 1 name. And when you start talking, talk to that person first and call them by their name. And what that does is that, again, it shows value to them and it sends a signal to the other people. I want to be one of the cool kids. You know what I mean? So that's how you do that. And as you do it on a regular basis, you become skilled and it becomes kind of second nature to you. Now, that butterfly that you feel at the beginning, that never goes away. You always will have that. But the hack for that is, instead of, oh my God, I'm so nervous, don't, it's semantics. Switch it from, I'm so nervous to, I'm really excited.
Yep.
Just that subtle difference changes your psyche and gives you enough impetus to not be a scaredy cat to go ahead and reach out first. Now you might go and say, somebody sitting here? Yeah, Erica's sitting there. Oh, bummer, got to find another table. So you move on and try it again. But those things set you apart. But you have to know that going into the room. Number 1, I own this room. Number 2, everybody in here is scared, but they don't want to move forward because they don't have the guts to. So let me be the gutsy one. And that's how you put yourself, in a preeminent position.
I feel like it's like networking becomes like this check for learning. Like you can read about it, you can listen to us talk about it, but like until you practice, and see like, did I actually absorb all of that?
And a note out of Eric's book about transparency and authenticity. So my memory sucks. So authentically, I could meet you and we could network, and then I could turn and be like, it's so nice to meet you. And you're like, we met already. And I will be like, yes, I'm the asshole. My apologies. And I say that regularly because it's not, I see a lot of faces and a lot of names and they do not stick. So one hack is, it's nice to see you. Not again, not meeting you. It's nice to see you. Like it is, whether I saw you before or not. So if you get that from me.
Can you just do that?
Because I get nervous about like, do I know this person? Do I not know this person? How long have I known this person? Are we hugging? Are we there? Are we strangers and I just hugged a stranger? These are the things. But this table scenario, which is, you know what? I'm terrible with names and faces. Can you tell me your name again? And I'll do that across a table with 10 people. But then I like to be the person who's like, wait a minute, didn't you say this and this? And then I'm like, can you get them talking? And then I can just sit back and listen. So my other favorite table thing. You got some good things to say, Timmy.
I told you, the goats. Who feels like, okay, I walk into networking events and paralyzed, okay, what do I do? I don't know what to say. Are you still, like, who still feels that? Come here. Come on. No, come on. Oh, wow. Okay. When I walk into a room, like a networking event, if I don't know anybody, here's the hacks, right? You walk into a room, you don't know anybody, you see clusters of people. Do you walk up to a cluster of people?
No.
The table of food. Welcome to the table for after that. It is. Go ahead.
I was like, it depends.
Okay, what's the depend?
If the cluster is looking like it's some intense kind of stuff, move around. You ain't in this. Don't you see us talking? But if there's kind of a jovial kind of vibe over there, it's like, oh, yes. Now, when you walk up, you can't be a buster, though. Again, this confidence piece, you got to come in with some intentionality. Now, either you're complimenting somebody on something, you're asking about something. Don't just come and be awkward and you just up there. You're weird. As you are approaching, you get about a second or 2 second window to do something. Now the crowd, they're already there. They already got a relationship. They already got their thing going on. You're coming up, they're seeing you in the peripheral. Who is this joker coming up to our little situation? So when you come up, you better have an action plan or else you're going to get rejected. So if you come up with an action plan, they're going to give you respect. Like, that was bald. Yeah, joker, you don't know who I am? I'm supposed to be up in here. So when you come up, say something. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation, but I was wondering, where was the restroom? Or what about this? Or
When you start laughing, I want in. What's?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. I would be like, I want to laugh. And that would be, have the personality to do that. Like if you have a meek personality, that's gonna be weird. So don't do what's authentic to your.
I end up working that.
Personal disposition,
I would
yeah.
also say too, and then I want to make sure you can tell your tip, that as like then a fellow networker, like pay attention for those people who are showing up into your circle. And
Open
like
the
the
circle.
pay it forward moment of being like, yeah, like come in, like open up the circle, like, we're all in this together. So I would just encourage you to remember that too. Yeah.
So you about to meet everybody in this room. Tell us. Hold on 1 second. Your name, what company? Everybody, talk to everybody. You about to know everybody.
Hello. My name's Colin. I work for the Renaissance Milwaukee West. If you're at the Mayfair Mall, stop and say hi.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you.
Not a Renaissance fair.
They thought you were ready to perform. Okay, so first approach. Walk in the room, scan the room. You see someone standing like this. If this everybody over here networking, I'm just like this.
Hey, have you been to this event before?
No, I'm not. Well done. Praise me. Yeah, okay. Walk in the room. Is there someone to save? If there's no one to save, there's 2 people. Eric, come here. Okay, so me and Eric are meeting, which is, this is nice. I've never been here before. Have you been in this building? And you can tell, you listen, you can tell we don't really know each other. And I say, okay, I'm gonna just do it like I would for real. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Dude, I love that hat.
Oh, thank you. I like your style.
Well, I try. I do try. I have all kind of Milwaukee stuff. I got Milwaukee t-shirts, Milwaukee. Do you think it's weird to live in the city and wear your own city on your shirt?
You know that downstairs there's a Brew City brand that you can get all Milwaukee stuff?
Dude, I'll go there all the time. Okay, have you heard anything that you feel like you could jump in on?
Yes.
Okay, do it. I go there all the time. I got all the t-shirts. I just love that.
Awesome. We should.
Key change. I mean, I'll be
We
broke.
should have a match.
I got all my money. We should.
I'm Eric.
Colin, pleasure to meet you.
This is Corey. Joe.
And what did we say that made you come over?
It was talking about downstairs.
Okay.
That's a common
What's your
ground
favorite
share.
spot? What's your favorite food down there?
Kampali tacos.
Why?
I'm obsessed with their location on Brady Street. As soon as I saw the second location here, it's like, they got a location on Brady Street?
Yeah. Like that.
Taco Tuesday, Taco Thursday.
Like you wouldn't, I don't care what a person says. You can sit down, Eric. I don't care. You two go. I don't care. I know you like, I do not care what the conversation is. If you hear anything, like, I mean, this is my philosophy. Generally, people are nice, generally, especially in these kind of, you're not really going to walk up to somebody and they're just going to be mean to you. That's not going to happen. And people are interesting. If you talk to somebody long enough, you'd be like, what? People are interesting. So if you hear anything, you have to know that they are just as desperate to talk to someone as you are, especially if they're on their own. And if it's two people and you can tell they're just connecting, they're looking for someone to come into the group. Like Tim said, the group is already locked in and laughing, whatever. If you have a strong personality, you could break in. Tim could break into any group. I probably could too, because I'm going to use humor. I'm loud. I know my personality though. But if you're not that way, you don't have to do what an outgoing person would do. You're interesting. And the person if you're genuinely listening, they're going to say something. And as soon as you go, I like Milwaukee t-shirts too. You know, when I lived in Cleveland, nobody wore a Cleveland shirt, you know, like, and then you just go like, it doesn't have to be Cleveland. No, I was just
and in addition to, if I can just jump in, Corey Joe, in addition to the complimentary stuff, another way that you can help put people at ease and get them comfortable with you is you're asking them questions about themselves. Those are softball questions, and that builds up their confidence because you ask them 2 or 3 questions in a row about themselves. They answer it confidently. Now you're both at ease, and then they'll say, well, hey, enough about me. Tell me something about you. What do you want to know? So now you get a chance to share about you, and now you all are really, really vibing. The main thing is that once you break the ice, keep the flow going, and as you get better at this, when you are in a room, try to time yourself so you're not at one conversation for the entire night. You try and move around after 3 or 4 minutes. But if it's really, really engaging, you can stick on around, of course. But those kind of things you will pick up. The main thing, though, is have the courage to be the one that is the first contact as opposed to waiting for somebody to come up to you.
I mean, we're all socially awkward, right? And I think that for me, is that don't dismiss yourself. You're in your position for whatever reason, right? And I think that you have a lot to offer, and if that person or that group does not embrace you for who you are in that moment, they're not worth it, right? And I think that it's just I think since COVID, we're starting to see more people be more open, especially men of color, being more open to their mental health and their self-confidence. I think that we as a community need to continue to build each other up and really instill that self-confidence and saying, like, everyone is awkward. I'm awkward as hell. But I think that people embrace Corey Joe and Maggie, especially embrace me for who I am. And I think that's the beauty of who we are as community members, that we all have something to offer, whether that's professionally, personally, spiritually. But we all have something to offer to someone, whether that's a commonality. That commonality, we all have common points, right? As Corey Joe said, like, I love food. Everyone eats, but like that commonality could be like you both hate each other. And so, but having that conversation of saying like, all right, having that conversation about saying like, why do we hate each other, or why do we not like each other? And then being open and having the healthy conversation, and it's building up that. Going into and you see a group or you see someone and say, I really would love to talk to that person, but like saying, like, reflecting on it, maybe a couple of seconds, taking your time when you're ready and willingness to step outside your comfort zone and really saying, like, I'm more than good enough for anyone, right? I deserve to be here. I deserve to connect with that person. I deserve to be a part of that conversation. As Tim and everyone else has kind of mentioned, if they don't want you to be a part of that, move on to the next group or move on to the next person.
I'm sorry, I missed your comment before. I didn't come back to you. I forgot. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay. No, I was going to ask, we were talking about earlier about communicating with people that are in groups. Like, how do you make that initial conversation? I was just going to ask, like, what do you say? Like, there might be say there's a group of people that you may want to connect with or network with, like, and they're talking, engaged in a conversation, like, how do you approach them? Like, what line do you say, or you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you go in and make that initial conversation?
So, well, context is everything, but like we're at a networking event where the whole intent is to meet other people. So you don't need a line.
Right.
You can just say like, hi, I came here to meet people. And you're up here. Good to see you. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah.
Because of the inside scoop, you seem to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
I am obnoxious though. And so, even if you're not obnoxious, if you're at a networking event, like at a wedding, if there's a group of folks that you don't know, maybe it's not okay to go up because they're, they might be family or friends or whatever. But if you're somewhere where we're supposed to be interacting, then just go interact a little more fearlessly. Because the intent of the whole night is to do this, is to get out of is to meet some strangers.
And I think you kind of have to just be like, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? Like I'll say, like, okay, so they don't accept you into this circle. Like, okay, well then what? Well then I'll find another circle and like, oh, that one don't. Like, okay, well then I find one other single person. Like maybe the circle thing isn't working for me to bust into tonight. But so it's like just kind of reminding yourself that it won't be the end of the world.
And I like Maggie's, like, be the person in the circle who acknowledges the people approaching the circle. And widen the circle. Be that person in the circle.
I'll just add to what they said in terms of there's no one size fits all type thing because it's going to depend upon what the circle is, who they are, and what they're vibing about. One of the things though that is a rule of thumb for me is if you come in courteously, people tend to respect you more because you're not coming off as a jerk. So when you come up, excuse me, didn't mean to interrupt your conversation. That can be your opening line all the time. Excuse me, didn't mean to interrupt your conversation. There's this is respectful. What you got to say? So your next piece is, hey, just wanted to dive on in. Or I heard you mentioning that Aaron Rodgers needs to go to the Jets and get out of here because he can't take us to the playoffs no more. I agree. So that's your thing. So your opening line to get in is a courtesy piece. I'm intruding, but I'm intruding respectfully. So that way you give yourself cover. If they're cool, oh, come on, don't worry about it, bro. Come on in. Right. Da, 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 da. Or what? What are you doing here? Oh, my bad. And you move around. But you were the one that opened it up with that courteousness. So your first line is, excuse me, didn't mean to interrupt your conversation, but blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna add something that's worked really well for me because sometimes when I'm at events, like my mind just goes completely blank, even if I did have an idea of what to approach somebody with. A safe thing to come back to is like I might have an event program in my hand. I can ask them like, have you been to one of these before? Do you know any of the speakers? Questions about the event or the speakers. Like you all have that in common. Like you all showed up for the same event. And so I found that's like a really easy one to fall back on. And then from there you can talk about like, oh, you do know them. What do you think of it? Or like, have you been a member of this group for a while or whatever? Like it breaks the ice and finds like that point of commonality that Eric was talking about pretty easily.
I think that's great. I've found too, like if you're at events or like you have a seat at a table where your company's sponsoring something and you ask like, can I bring a guest? Like that's a great, if you're nervous about like, what am I even going to talk to? Like if it's a cool speaker, like there you go. Like you have your, conversation starter right there. It's, it's like people who go to like the movies on a first date. Some of it is because like, you're like, I know we can talk about the movie after if you're feeling nervous. Kind of the same thing where you're like, you have the thing that you're going to experience together and then you can kind of debrief, think about it. And if you just aren't able to really talk much more, that's okay. Like you've been at a thing together and you can circle back on something else. But sometimes it's nice just to have that like thing to respond to together.
Yeah. Anything like when you in the scenario where you have a group that you observed, what do you notice about the group? There's some reason why you're attracted to that group. You notice something. I was looking for the other tall black man in the room and walk up to him and stand up next to him, or again, compliment the shirt, watch. If you compliment people's jewelry, there's usually a story behind it, or technology. If you notice that they have a phone that's different than yours, it's like, do you really like the iPhones? I don't like, like anything that you know that, or you can observe, it's probably, they're gonna have something else to say about it. And then it's just a point of connection. Everybody has a phone. Everybody either loves iPhone or hates iPhone. And then, just if you you wear glasses, so you might notice somebody else's glasses, or I wear my hair in twists. I'm gonna notice somebody else's hair in twists. And people kind of like to connect in that way. I think it's like you have to think real time. We're just people.
I was worried about my hat and was really grateful that Eric was also wearing it. And I pulled my hat off and I went, oh no, nope. Well, I'm gonna have to wear the hat all night. So then Eric saved me.
Questions, thoughts?
One trick I used, and granted, I don't work in a for-profit business, so I'm not trying to make money with my networking, but I got some grace when I went to a professional conference, and I was hanging at the corner near the hors d'oeuvres, and there was another lady who was like definitely trying to avoid people. I was like, so you like networking too? And then we bonded over not liking it. I don't know that we're gonna do business, but it was a nice way to ease the moment.
Other thoughts?
I want to know what people in this room do though. Like, how many, are there salespeople in this room?
Yes.
How many salespeople? Just curious.
I usually start off slow, hit the stragglers. That's would make my own circle.
Is that
I hit the people around the corners.
Mhm.
And bring them in.
Yeah.
I interrupted somebody. You're gonna call on somebody. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm not a salesperson, but one comment I thought about what he said, and even just what you've been saying about moving to other circles. Like, I think in the moment that can feel really discouraging. But at the same time, just think about the fact that once you leave, especially if you intend to follow up, there are only so many people that you can actually follow up with and still maintain the rest of your life, And so even if you get rejected a few times, if you meet one solid person or even three, anything more than five might be overwhelming. And so, it's okay. They're just narrowing down the people for you, And so
in your own time.
Yeah. I did have a quick question too about something you said when you were making the sports reference. Are there any websites or any things you do daily to just keep up with the news and have things to talk about?
That's an excellent question. And yes, being well-read, it is an advantage for you because you can talk about anything, world events, sports, the weather. And as you are asking people their questions about themselves, you can tangentially add on to a response that they've given you to something that's in, the world that's going on. So is this your first time coming here? Well, yeah, What do you typically do on these kind of evenings? What do you like to do? I like to do so and so and so and so. Hey, well, I was hearing that the Davos World Economic Forum recently, they were talking about so and so and so and so. Is that something that you're interested in too? So being well-read, is a plus for you. And to that end, I would say, learn about as much as you can, not as like a research scientist or anything like that, but everything that comes across, your social media feeds, your newspapers, read that stuff so you can have at least a cursory conversation about it. And you might run into an expert, but I found that the more things you know about, the more entryways you have to connect with people, because people are varied and have varied interests. And if you have some points of intersectionality with them based on what you've been consuming content wise, it's an advantage for you.
And I think too, you can be strategic depending on what type of situation you're walking into. Like it's a very industry specific, like taking that minute to read something that's relevant within there, that would be most helpful. Because if it feels like too much to be like, oh, I don't know, like all the current events, then the kind of low hanging fruit becomes, you know, like what would be most relevant there.
Yeah, I also think that if you know someone's going to be there, I think that doing your own research and finding out either Googling or creeping on their social media or LinkedIn, because 9 times out of 10, I'm sure you're going to be connected to them in some capacity or just know about them. So just doing your own research and maybe asking them something that sets you apart, right? Asking them about maybe something that they may have talked about or have read about in the news or on their social media feed, like about maybe their loved ones or their favorite hobby or something. For me, like one thing that really perks me is someone saying like, hey, I know that you volunteer at this food insecurity meal site. So for me, for the last 8 years, if someone asked me about that means that they actually have listened to some of my random talks or talking about me about maybe non-alcoholic drinks and stuff like that. So it's like really taking the time to do your own research, not only with worldly events and all that fun stuff, but like really if you see that person like, oh my God, I can't wait to meet Maggie, or I can't wait to meet Corey Joe or Erica or Tim, to say like, I want to do my own research and kind of get to know them.
I think too, I was saying earlier on, sort of like understanding your unique value and kind of those stories that you have about yourself that you know you can recall pretty quickly, like kind of coupling that together where you know just enough about that person that you're like, ooh, I'm working on a project that would probably pique their interest. You don't walk up and say, I'm going to tell you about this project that I'm working on, but you ask them essentially a leading question that hopefully provides the opportunity for you to talk about it. And then it becomes just the sharing of stories versus, you know, trying to sell something, even if you aren't like literally selling anything. But so I think that's where we often say like stories are sticky, and like that's what people will remember about you. So I think that research kind of can be better. It's like research yourself and research, you know, the people that you might connect with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As we wrap up here, I just kind of wanted to add that it's a good idea, and it's something that I've started to do, is to think about the reasons why I network and the kinds of networks I have in my life. Like all of your networking is not for the same reason, and all of your networks don't have the same people in them. Sometimes it's about work and career advancement. Sometimes it is about making friends and just having social connections. You have a religious or church network, or folks that you exercise with, and whatever. You kind of got to think about your life and the people. The reason why we're networking is because people need each other. We have to support each other. And you need people to support you, and you have assets that could be a support to other people. And take like 15 minutes and think about the circles of influence in your own life and how you've developed them and what you feel is missing and what's not there and why it's not there. And I think when you start to do that, you might walk into a room with less nervous because you're more intentional about why you're there. Like, I'm walking into this room because I really, really need to find a mentor. Like that's missing from my life. Or I need a man. I'm just but if that's your thing, that's what it is. But I mean, everybody's got and it's like, it's a different thing than the plastic, just false networking of like, I'm going to go in here because I'm going to get what I need out of people in this transaction. No, it's the understanding like we're a community and we need each other. And that is really why we're doing this. So if you know that, I go to Eric's dinners And I'm just there to make friends, really. And then those friends turn into, boot camp speakers. That was not my intention. It turned into that, and that's fine. But I'm going there. It's like, I just really need a drink, and I just want to laugh, and I just want to, whatever it is. Think about that. Like, I spent some time like looking at my networks and kind of like making a circle, writing the name of the network in it, who's missing. Like, what am I missing? And here's a network that my kids are older now, 10 and 12 years old. And I'm realizing like, I'm an older parent compared to when a lot of my friends had kids. So I don't have a lot of friends with kids that are my age. It's not easy for me to just be on the weekend, we're going to go by such and such house because such and such ain't got no kids or their kids grown or, already out of the house. That's a network that I have to start building. So I'm thinking about Jack and Jill and okay, let me go find out about the Boys and Girls, just different organizations and parents, because I would need to make friends with people who have kids my age. That's why I'm going to certain events now. So that's just one example, but I think all of us have those. So spend some time thinking about that so you don't have to feel like I don't know what I'm doing here or feel pressure, because you just need folks. Know what you need, and then also be aware that you have value and that you have something to offer to everybody that interacts with you. If it's a laugh, a smile, a handshake, whatever, you're valuable. Like you matter, and that room is better because you're in it.
I agree.
Looking at me because he got a date. He want to be. It's not a writer. No, it's not. You guys have value. You have so much value to this conversation. I love you all so much. Thank you so much.
So I think that
By the presenter.
I think that one challenge for all of us would be that by the end of this quarter, so before spring, we challenge, or we would love for you to meet someone today that you met tonight. Break bread with them, whether it's coffee, virtual conversation, and then just share it with Sophia and Corey Joe and the rest of the team.
Success story.
And then really maybe use some highlights, or if you're saying excuse my language, but I'll watch it now. So say, oh my gosh, I met this person. Can Corey Joe or Sophia, can you help connect me to this person because I met them and I may not know them, or would you be willing to make that introduction? I think that's what our challenge would be, is that finding someone or a group of people that you met tonight, and say, I want to break bread with them, and breaking bread could be coffee, drink, or a virtual conversation or an in-person conversation. Just say, I just want to get to know you, and then tag it, and then send it back to Corey Joe and Sophia.
That would be awesome.
So,
yeah, that would be awesome. Great idea. Okay. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Did you learn something?
No.
Did they make you think differently? Yeah. I mean, you guys put stuff
Next time I'm at a networking event, I'm following him.
Yeah.
Well, that's the guy you don't follow. You make
a good looking kid. My daughter. My daughter. That's Asha. We're gonna go downstairs to the Avenue. No, it's not called the Avenue. It's called the 3rd Street Market Hall. I keep calling it the wrong thing. 3rd Street Market Hall is a food court down there. There's a nice bar, really great. It's amazing. It's amazing. So if you don't have another engagement or something to do, just meet us down there for drink, food, whatever you want to do. We talked about boot camp. It's over. It's actually over. We're going to relax this weekend. And then we're getting back to it. Programming, leadership luncheons, socials. We got great activity programming coming up. So, Sophie, Any last words, any comments, anything you want them to know as we're wrapping up here?
Oh, what a great session. Keep an eye out in your emails. I'll be sending a follow-up to this session with information from each of our speakers about things that they're working on right now, and then their LinkedIn profiles and their contact information. And then please connect with us.
Yeah. The networking forum luncheons at the MMAC, if you want to really make networking into something that is powerful and long-lasting and relationships that you will have for your whole professional career, the networking forum luncheons happen every other week. You pay quarterly and you're with this group of people, and the whole point is to build a relationship that you can leverage, and there's a level of trust and intimacy in these groups. I have people who I met 20 years ago in these networking forum luncheons who are critical to my success, like in my business. And that's where we met and forged these. So if you're like, these big networking things are a little much, but you have somebody who will sponsor you, or you have a couple $100 a quarter, I'm telling you, the networking forum luncheon will accelerate your relationships that are specifically like, I just want to meet strangers, and have your relationships become my relationships, and it's safe and it's repeatable and it's amazing.
The Activate and Engage is another event that's coming up February 1st. That's being hosted by Milwaukee Film's Black Lens program. February 1st, 6 p.m. If you go to the Milwaukee Film website, you'll see it. It doesn't cost anything, and the whole purpose is to just have dialogue about everything that concerns all of us as Milwaukee professionals in a diverse setting. So register for that, and hopefully I'll see you there, and then I'll see you downstairs if you decide to go. And is that food still out there?
There's very little left.
But we'll eat downstairs if you're hungry. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you. Oh, hi, I'm Nick. I think I'm with Active Transfer.